focused, and strategic.
This is your host, Andy Saqib of UnleashStrengths.com. Make sure you hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com/UnleashStrengths, or follow us on Twitter @UnleashCSF. Again, that's UnleashCSF. If you have an idea for a podcast or you have somebody... You're listening to Thematics, presented by UnleashStrengths.com, the only show that embraces your addiction to strengths. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Thematics, the only show that embraces your addiction to strengths. Thematics is now an audio-only podcast series created by UnleashStrengths.com to highlight the massive impact the Strengths Finder assessment and the book Strengths Finder 2.0 has had on now over 10 million users. It's our belief here at Unleash Strengths that the best way to promote its effectiveness and display its proven results is to interview those who've experienced the power of strengths-based development firsthand. My interviewee today, Mr. Abdullah Saqib, I'll have to pronounce that better next time, is being interviewed just because he's intimately aware of his strengths and wants nothing more than to share his story. For more information on this podcast and to review a recorded version of this after the show, go ahead and visit UnleashStrengths.com to schedule an interview for yourself. We're always looking for strengths enthusiasts to get behind the mic and do a little interview with us. You can email me, Andy, A-N-D-Y, at UnleashStrengths.com, or give us a call on the old telephone, 815-441-2219. Hit us up on social media, Facebook.com/UnleashStrengths. Twitter, we're at UnleashCSF. Again, that's UnleashCSF. And you can download this sweet podcast directly to your mobile device, iOS device, iPad, whatever you want, via iTunes. Just search Thematics in the search bar under podcast, and you'll find us. So I'm really excited today. We have a gentleman on the show who I've spoken with in the past, and then we had one interview scheduled, and his and I's schedules didn't link up, so we went ahead and pushed it back. But Mr. Abdullah Saqib, I'm going to try to say that right. Go ahead and introduce us to yourself. Tell us how to say your name correctly, because obviously I butchered it, and tell us a little bit about your top 5.
Thank you, Andy, for giving me the opportunity. And yeah, it's Abdullah Saqib, but you pronounce it quite accurately anyways. So I'm Abdullah Saqib from Islamabad, Pakistan, and I'm a marketing professional in Telenor, Pakistan by profession. I'm a telecom engineer by qualification, and I'm a freelance writer and a strengths coach by passion. So that's briefly put my introduction.
Wow, you have quite a few things going on at one time, man. How do you find time to sleep?
Again, the key lies in strengths and identifying your talent. So as we progress in the interview, I'll tell you exactly how I did it. But yeah, if I miss out on any one aspect of my personality, then I feel really empty. So together they form a really good combination that challenge my strengths or talent zones and then develop it on a daily basis.
So Abdullah, what is your top 5?
Well, my top 5 are futuristic, strategic, individualization, connectedness, and focus.
That's awesome, man. I like that. My futuristic, strategic, that's my top 1 and 2. This flipped, strategic and futuristic. So who introduced you to Strengths Finder and why? How did this even come into your life? Was it a colleague, a friend, a family member? How did you hear about it?
Well, I'll just narrate a story which links to both the questions, the previous one as well as this one. I'm a telecom engineer by qualification, and within my first semester, I was absolutely sure of one thing, that I had no interest in what I was studying in. So throughout my 4 years undergraduate degree, I focused on identifying areas which gave me the energy boost, and that energy boost, obviously through my activities, could help me tackle those areas in my life which I was not interested in. So typically I wasn't interested in studies, but I wanted to get good grades. So what I started doing was I volunteered my skills as president of Fast Engineering Society, the society in my university, and then I became president of a mega event which is held in Pakistan, and I had a team of 400 people. So throughout my university life, I got the opportunity to actually explore those aspects of my volunteer work which gave me an energy boost. And then as I involved myself in these activities, my grades actually started improving, and that was the key to it. So as soon as I graduated, I promised one thing to myself, that I would guide everyone who's out there to follow their interest, to drive and to focus on their passion. And so I started this career consultancy or career coaching platform called Wrangle. Wrangle meaning right angle, and that was a free career coaching platform meant to guide people towards their talent and passion. And by that time, I wasn't aware of this tool, this amazing tool. And so one of the pictures of my event was posted on Facebook in my profile, and that the presentation slide read, "Identify your talent." Now, note, I wasn't aware of StrengthsFinder. So one of my relatives in Canada wrote down that I know of a tool which is really relevant to what you are doing, and so she inboxed me about Gallup StrengthsFinder. And now for the next 3 months at least, I tried to get hold of the StrengthsFinder book to explore more of it, but it wasn't available here in Pakistan. And so what happened was, after 3 months, I got really obsessed with the tool, and I wanted to give the test. And so I purchased the code online, and incidentally, my wife Yumna, she got the book ordered, and it got delivered the same day. And so what happened was, we had two codes on the same day, StrengthsFinder codes, and so both Yumna and I took the test, and we were really happy with it.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, just this, most of the people who listen to this podcast, most of our listeners are here in the United States. So explain to us a little bit about why it was difficult to get the book. Was it just not available there in the bookstores?
Well, to those of the audience who know StrengthsFinder, it is a bit technical, in the sense that people who want to actually explore themselves and then read through the book have to actually be passionate about it. And so what happened here, or happening here, is that people are not aware of this tool. Number two, they're not willing to invest their time in actually exploring this tool. So there was a need, and there is a need, to actually break the ice and introduce people to this tool. And as I'll tell you in the next few questions, I started work on introducing this tool to the audiences across Pakistan, and there's been a tremendous response. So mainly due to the fact that there wasn't widespread awareness of the tool, and there was a vacuum. So bookstores didn't actually get the book and put it on their front areas. So that's I guess that's the reason why people don't have access to it.
Now, when we discuss different cultures, I had interviewed a gentleman who's actually going to Purdue University, but he is from Pakistan originally, and he kind of explained to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the concept of, living with your strengths, or the concept of pursuing your passion, isn't often accepted in that country, only because you're kind of predetermined as to what career you're going to find or what you're gonna land into. And normally it has to do with something of like lineage. Like if your father worked within a certain industry, more than likely as a son, you will eventually take over that same course of action and pursue that job. Is that accurate?
Well, it is accurate somewhat. I'll slightly disagree because things are moving really fast here at the moment in terms of entrepreneurship and the startup ecosystem. And there is a backlash towards that traditional way of thinking. And so, what's happening here is that throughout the course of an undergraduate degree, most of the students make the mistake of choosing the wrong career. And when they graduate, they start to actually incorporate their passion to what they're doing. Now most of them struggle, and they then turn towards trainers and people who can advise them and guide them to actually identify and pursue their talent areas. But what happens here is that it is people give generic advice. StrengthsFinder is a specific tool which actually gives you the talent areas, and you can actually work on them and develop them. But understanding the underlying concepts, like for example, splitting personality into knowledge, skills, and talent, this is an approach which is alien here. And so when we club knowledge, skills, and talent together, then the training or the advice is pretty generic, and that doesn't have that impact impact which should have been. Briefly put, what is happening at the moment in Pakistan is that there is an increasing chunk of graduates or young people who are aspiring entrepreneurs. And now, when they become entrepreneurs and they start off with the idea, they make mistakes, no doubt about that. But then during that process, they start learning about themselves and they have that self-awareness. And so those people are pretty easy to relate with when we talk about strengths and talent.
Yeah, that's amazing. And just to go back a little bit, you mentioned that your strengths really became evident and you were more motivated when you were able to volunteer. Now, talk to us a little bit about that. What sort of volunteering? You said you were involved with the mega event that was there and you had 400 people underneath you. Talk to us a little bit about how volunteering kind of lifted the lid off of your talents.
Okay, so if I start off with my GPA in the first semester, just to be specific, my GPA was 3.82 out of 4 in the first semester, right? And so then the GPA started declining. So it was like 3.41 in the next, 3.2 in the next, and then 3, and then 2.76. And the 4 semesters were declining. And so the 2 years went by of my undergraduate degree. And in the next 2 years, I started volunteering. And I volunteered in British Council's Active Citizens program. I was the deputy speaker and mentor at a Young Leaders Conference here in Islamabad. Then I was elected the president of Fast Engineering Society. So when I was elected president of Fast Engineering Society, I had like 10 sub-societies under me, and we had about 30 events in the span of a year. And so event management, team management, conceiving new ideas, all of these were related to what I was doing as a president of that society. And then in the latter part of my my undergraduate degree, I became president of NASCON, which is National Solutions Convention, and it involved simultaneous events, 30 simultaneous events across 3 days in four main areas. So it was engineering, computer science, business administration, and then social events. And so across these 4 areas, there were 30 events happening in 3 days. And so that was the ultimate test of my skills, my talent, my knowledge. And so it was a really moving experience, mainly due to the fact that I could see people actually breaking away from the shackles of their normal career path and then pursuing their talent. For example, one of the design head, the guy who was responsible for decor of the events, was actually a computer science guy, and he was really passionate about it, and he did a tremendous job. And he used to stay the night in the university and do hard work, and that wasn't true about the normal study that he did. So those insights formed the learnings, which actually made me conclude at one point. And that one point was that if we start to map our activities in terms of whether they drained our energy or boosted our energy, if we started categorizing our activities in that way and then use that energy boost to tackle the remaining activities through teamwork and other approaches, the impact was tremendous. So the latter part of my degree, my GPA started to increase. So I touched 2.76, but then the next semester when I became the president of Fast Engineering Study, everybody was like, you're spending so much time not studying and involving yourself in these kind of activities. My GPA jumped to 3 again, then 3.14, then 3.27, and at the end of the day, I ended at 3.14. So a ship which was sinking actually got back up to the surface, and at the end of the day, it landed at a respectable place, and I had lots of learnings with me.
That's amazing. And I love hearing stories like that. And it's really, today I'm speaking to a group of college students, roughly 75, on something very, very similar. And I think for the longest time, students, like you said, who are passionate and hungry, but just lost that kind of sense of direction. We're trying to fill a void in their life through getting a great GPA and what they thought was a college degree necessary to get them where they wanted to go, which here in the States is often the case. But a lot of these students in their 18, 19, 20 years of age don't really know what their true talents or strengths are. They know what they enjoy doing, and like you said, they know what provides them with an energy boost, but they don't know how to equate that into a career or into something they can do to generate income so they can support a future family. So I love hearing that. And I also love hearing how you volunteered. I mean, that is a great indicator of where your strengths are, because often those who don't volunteer don't realize that they have these talents. But when they actually get out there and start raising their hands by their own choosing to support organizations or events that they enjoy, they notice a huge influx of pride and just this raw motivation and just in feeling that they're actually doing something that they were meant to do. So thank you for sharing that story. So how would you say, well, let's go back a little bit. Talk to us a little. You said you were already talking about, embracing your talents and kind of building on your strengths. So what was that aha moment? What was that time where you got StrengthsFinder and you took the assessment, the Clifton StrengthsFinder assessment, and you realized, hey, like there's some serious traction here. This works and I want to use it to help others.
Okay, I'll set the context to the answer first. And there's one aspect which I haven't mentioned yet. So what happened during the course of my undergraduate life and the time till now maybe was that I was continuously coaching people who were older than me. And so the oldest guy I coached, and I'm talking about life coaching. So for example, one of my class fellows, she had a tragedy, and in terms of deaths and all, and even some of my relatives were facing the same situation, depression, and so on and so forth. So I was at the end of the day coaching people, and the oldest guy I coached was 70 years of age. And just to give you the intensity of the situation, his son didn't even invite his father, the guy I was coaching, to his wedding. So that was the intensity of the cases I was dealing with. And notice, I was just a guy doing an undergraduate degree, and I was coaching people on things that were much bigger than me. And so I started developing the futuristic strategic things beforehand. And during my undergraduate degree, I started writing a book. And in 2011, I completed the book, and it hasn't been published yet, but it concerned the same things. It is a book of 300 words with 41 figures, and those 41 figures are all flow charts and concepts and so on and so forth. So in the latter part of I think December 2013, I actually got hold of StrengthsFinder code, and I gave the test. And then as soon as I read what it showed to me, I just nodded in agreement. Every single thing which was there was true, and it clicked with whatever I had experimented with and concluded as learnings. And so, for example, it highlighted how I was suitable for coaching people, guiding people towards maybe the things which will happen in the future, and giving vivid descriptions of what will happen and inspiring people accordingly. And then it also showed me that it said you will excel in entrepreneurial environments. And when I read that, I was part of a small company which was again an entrepreneurial environment, and I was also running this Wrangle coaching thing, which I was the founder. And so everything clicked into place, and it was like it was such a perfect reflection that I started recommending StrengthsFinder to people around me. And obviously this was new to people around me. And what happened was that I became so passionate about the subject, mainly because it's so much corresponded and agreed with my story and my learnings, that I got in touch with people, and I basically started trolling LinkedIn, and started finding people related to Gallup Strengths Center. And so I got in touch with the director of talent management on Gallup, and then through him I got introduced to various other people, and then he advised me to actually, he guided me to groups like Call to Coach and the public group as well. And so I got introduced to this amazing group of people who are all inspired and motivated by this new way of thinking, the positive psychology movement, if I call it. And so from then on, the whole coaching initiative which I had started as soon as I graduated, along with my full-time job, circled around strengths coaching. And so I was blessed to get in touch with you, with Brent O'Bannon, with Keith Baldwin, with Martin Dobney. All of these guys actually mentored me and encouraged me to move on. And so that's how I actually started implementing this or introducing this movement in Pakistan. And so what I say at this moment, that Wrangle is Pakistan's first career strengths movement. And being the first strengths movement here in Pakistan, we're trying to actually spark it off, to build that awareness. And it's not about money at this stage. It's about awareness. It's about breaking those barriers. Look, you mentioned about how students and people face difficulty in identifying talents. The most frequent question which people ask when we talk about strengths to them is, I think I'm talented in finance. I'm talented, or I'm strong in engineering. And when we hide behind functional or knowledge bases, we are unable to actually determine who we are in our own self, and that is above any other field. And that's how we broke the barriers and successfully trained the first batch of 25 senior professionals. And then it's been a roller coaster ride all along.
That's a great story. I just love hearing, one of the things you said is it was about awareness. And I always talk, sometimes I get phone calls from people that say, "Hey, Andy, I'm going to become a Gallup certified strengths coach." And I say, "That's amazing." But it starts with awareness. You're not going to get rich as soon as you get that certification. I mean, it's not, the focus can't be really on about making money. The focus at least for the first couple, like up to 6 months, needs to be on awareness. Because just like in Pakistan, here in the United States, the concept of positive psychology and strengths-based awareness and development is really relatively new. Most organizations are very kind of, and I'll use the slang term, old school in the way they manage the production and growth of their business, and letting them know that they have to invest in their employees and harness their individual talents and strengths is often kind of a blind concept, and they don't really know how to accept it. So I love that you use the words awareness, because I think that is the key, and that's what I've built my business on and my coaching practice is just on awareness. Hey, there's a different way of doing things. Let me talk to you a little bit about StrengthsFinder. Great story.
Yeah, exactly.
So now when you approach somebody about the assessment and you say, "Hey, there's this book out there called StrengthsFinder 2.0, it's a Gallup production and this is the whole thing," and you approach somebody, do you get any kind of resistance? Because here in the United States, and I'm sure it's the same there, we have a lot of what's dubbed like personality assessments, and individuals don't necessarily want to take those all the time, and sometimes they view StrengthsFinder and the accompanying assessment as something very similar. So when you get that kind of resistance, how do you explain to them what the tool really will do for them?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and mainly because there are free, not so comprehensive personality assessment tools out there, that people actually start taking those results at heart. And so what they do is, when you say, "Do you know your personality or your talent areas?" They're like, "Yeah, we took that test and we got the end output that I should do engineering or should be an engineer, and I'm now an engineer. So I based my strategy on that." So what happens is, when since Gallup Strengths Finder isn't that the awareness isn't that much here, and there's another reason to it, is because there's a surveying agency here which is called Gallup Pakistan, which is different from Gallup worldwide, which we're talking about. So whenever I told people about Gallup Strengths Finder, they actually related it to the group or the agency here in Pakistan which does political surveys, and so they were like, they were set aback, and I had to actually explain to them that it's different. And so the next question would always be about trust, whether we should trust these guys or not. And so I had to actually convince people, and so that's what I did. In the beginning, or in the initial parts of Wrangle's journey, I was coaching students, but then I realized that the real decision makers and the real influencers are those senior professionals, CEOs, and the C-level people in organizations, and HR professionals who are setting the trend, who have the policy making decisions, and the HR management or performance evaluation systems. And so what I did was that I partnered with the local partner, a guy who has more than 25 years of experience, along with the 3 4 mentors I mentioned, like Keith, Martin, and Brent. Along with these people and Gallup support and the Gallup call to coach group support, what I started doing was that I started targeting the senior people in organizations. And so the first manifestation was, I think, in September or October 2013, when in HR Forum Islamabad I was invited as a guest speaker. Now the audience was around 100 senior HR professionals, along with heads of departments of various business administration departments in universities. And so it was a really rich pool of people. And just to add into it, even my father was part of it, because he's at a senior position in an organization. So that was a really good pool of people. And so to them I presented the whole idea and the whole science, and how it related to performance of Gallup Strengths Finder and the strengths way of thinking, if I call it. And through those people, I tried to gather trust and eventually managed to get it. That if these guys agreed and acknowledged that this is worth doing, then other people said, okay, this guy presented this to 100 hardcore senior professionals, and they had no issues with it. So then the trust factor began developing. And so till date, I've done tens of events, and maybe in events or workshops or various other guest speaking opportunities. And so and various CEOs have taken part in my sessions. And so I always start off with a simple question: what do you think is your strength, or what are strengths? And so busting the definition, or busting the myth associated with the definition of strengths, actually it acts as an icebreaker among audiences. And anywhere from 15 minutes to 2 hours to 2 days, I've done sessions in these time frames, and I've got a tremendous response. And it is mainly due to the fact that I started with challenging the existing regime, or the existing definitions associated with talent, strengths, and performance.
No, I love that. And I really appreciate the fact that you said the first step was building trust. You know, sometimes in the small grouping of strengths coaches here in the United States, you have some individuals who will really kind of advertise it as the magic pill, the solution to all their problems. And that doesn't build trust. I mean, that's very reminiscent of your kind of 2 a.m. infomercial where it's just too good to be true. So I love how you said you'll take as much time as necessary to get them to see that this will work for them. And if it takes an hour, if it takes 2 hours, if it takes a day, if it takes 2 days, you're willing to invest that time to build trust. You're not going to overpromise, but you're going to overdeliver. And I love that. Now, can you give us, and this is just for my pure curiosity, how do you start out your presentations? I mean, what's the initial, if you're using a slideshow on a PowerPoint, what's your initial first 2 or 3 slides to the basic structure of the introduction to StrengthsFinder?
Well, the first slide is always about setting perspectives. So, literally, the first slide which I use is a collection of positive news about Pakistan. And so, what I do is I ask people that you view Pakistan in a negative way because of the dominant news and so on, and related things. And so, if I highlight to you all these positive things, or if I start asking you what are positive things associated with Pakistan, people have a hard time actually counting them. And so I fill the slides with all positive things, and I say that if you look at things through a positive spectacle or vision, things will change dramatically. And then the next argument which I put forth is that the really good or powerful point about perspective is at one moment in time you will be like you have nothing, and at the next moment in time when you're more self-aware, you'll say I have everything to do what I need to do. And so this power of changing perspectives is how I break the initial barrier. And then I start off with the definition of strength. What is strength? Activities that you're good at, or activities that make you feel empowered. And from then on, I set the narrative, and then we split, and then we talk about how many. An example is that I ask people, I show them the image, or the picture of the Milky Way and the universe. A really good slide. I like that. Just the image. And then I ask people how many stars are there in the universe, and so they're like, we don't know, billions, trillions, and so on and so forth. And then I ask them, how many brain cells or neurons in your brain? And when I relate these two things, I and then I tell them how, just to I know this might become a bit complex, but just to give you a preview, I then tell them how talent is actually developed in a child, how there are neural pathways that actually get that are like 4-lane highways as we grow older till 15 years of age maybe. And then I tell them the power within their brains, and how by understanding what is in the mind or in the brain, or within their personality, they can actually change the perspective of things happening around them, and then start influencing it through, by developing their talent, by identifying their talents, developing on them, and then excelling through them by driving performance. And so, just to conclude on the question which you asked, I then move on and split personality into three aspects: knowledge, skills, and talent. And then from that, I consolidate the definition, or this strengths way of thinking, and then the story goes on.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that, Abdullah. I think that's going to help out a lot of people that are either coaches or just trying to share the concept of strengths-based development with people in their team or organization. That's a great place to start. And I really appreciate the whole changing perspective thing. I think it's great that you include slides of positive news stories and positive highlights from within the country. I actually love that. And I think that when I coach some of my corporate clients, and it's a large group of people, whether they're human resources or it's the top 3 or 4 people in the organization, I would like to repeat that same kind of tactic, but show them positive press releases or positive stories or events within their organization to kind of set that mindset. I really enjoy that. Perfect.
Exactly.
So let's give an additional scenario here. You just walked into a room. You're standing behind somebody who has just finished taking their assessment. They went through, they answered all the questions. Now they're sitting back and they print out their report for the very first time. What type of advice do you give them to take that initial first step?
Well, it's really relevant, and I'll again give you an example that, just maybe 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, one of my again all of my activities are then shared on Facebook through snapshots of what I'm doing in various events. And so people at my office in Telenor become curious and then ask me, what are you doing in this on weekends and on evenings after office hours? And so I usually tell them about briefly about strengths and the Gallup tool. And so I don't push them much, but I tell them that there's a tool called Gallup Strengths Finder, and you can actually do that. So one of my colleagues got really passionate about it, and he was actually in a dilemma, and he was identifying talent areas and so on. And so he took the test. Now, when he took the test, he came to me and he told me that it was a really good test and it clicked with me. And I was like, just don't leave it there. I think we need to sit down one day and then discuss what it actually means. And that's the end of that part of the conversation. And so on another day, he came to me and he said, "You were right. I really need to sit down with you, and we should discuss and actually decipher what it means." And so on a weekend, we met and we sat down for like 4 or 5 hours, and I busted the 3 myths associated with, as we grow we become more we become different or we become more mature. And then I busted the myths associated with our obstacles in the strengths way of thinking. I busted those myths, and then I actually empowered him with the right concepts, with the Gallup way of thinking, I call it. And so I empowered him with the right concepts, and then I moved to the report which was in his hand, the top 5, and then from the top 5 the whole description and everything. So I didn't move on to the description. I explained to him what each of the top 5 meant, and I actually derived from his experiences how it related to what he was doing or what he did in life, and what drives satisfaction and performance in his life. And so through that, I gave him a whole SWOT analysis, and equipped him with the tools and with the challenges that need to be carried out frequently or accountability which needs to be done frequently to actually identify talents. Again, I'm repeating it myself, but identifying talents, then converting them to strengths by actually working on them, challenging your comfort zones, and working on your strengths, and make excelling in that. And one of my quote, which is the favorite quote in my participant base, is that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So if you don't, and I'll repeat again. So hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. The problem which we face across the world is that we take our talents or strengths for granted, and we ignore them, and we focus on our weaknesses, and we drain all our energy through it, and don't focus on our strengths. And when we work hard on our talents, they become our strengths. And when they become our strengths, it actually enables us to make a strategy that gives us satisfaction, both in terms of personal satisfaction as well as company wide satisfaction or collective satisfaction in terms of performance. And so that's how I actually paint the whole picture from the top five.
Well, I was delaying here as I was writing down that quote. I really, really like that. See, one of the things, and I'll claim little selfishness here, is I do these interviews because I always, not only do I get a chance to interview people from all over the world, which is amazing, but every person I interview comes with their own set of unique gifts, talents, and just awesome insights. And that little quote right there is amazing. And that's the type of little nuggets that I like to mine for. But I 100% agree with you, Abdullah. I think you hit the nail on the head with that right there. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And I think that's amazing. And anybody listening to this podcast should write that down. That is a seriously cool gem. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
So, Abdullah, do you have a favorite talent within your top five? One that, which I just recently found out that a lot of the coaches in South Africa refer to as their core talent, but that one talent that seems to kind of lead the parade and redirect all the others that follow. Do you have one of those in your top five?
Yeah, I think my top two favorites in my talents are futuristic and strategic, mainly because they both complement each other and strengthen each other. But I really like both. I can't say which one I like most, but futuristic is really good and it relates to what I do regularly. And strategic, it reinforces it. And then the rest of my and then focus comes in and allows me to actually take my thinking towards impact. And then individualization and connectedness actually allows me to narrate all my experiences in a manner that inspires and motivates people around me. And again, when I talk about individualization, looking at people as special parts of the whole of the globe, having specific purpose and role is a really powerful insight, and that allows me to actually always dig deeper, rather than judging people on their behavior. Dig deeper and understand what is actually driving them. And when I'm able to reinforce futuristic strategic with the rest of my top five, it is actually a really, I'm really thankful to God, as well as the whole of the ecosystem within me, that this is a really good I really like this combination. Not boasting on anything, but this is a really good combination and allows me to coach people, as well as think straight. But I'll share another insight with you regarding the previous question. I continuously, after I took the Gallup Strengths Finder, I started challenging each of my talent areas, and so I started challenging my comfort zones and coming out of it. And so what I do is I regularly variate the audiences I'm speaking to or motivating. So I was initially coaching students, then I moved on to faculty and senior people, and then I moved on to the real top brass, the decision makers and senior professionals and C-level people. And then at the end of the day, I said, there's one missing element, and that was the element of children, coaching children. And that was a really challenging area. And so what I did was I broke the norm and I went into a mosque. And now a mosque, usually you call it a madrasa, which is full of students who learn religious education. And so I was invited, or I got introduced to a madrasa, which was an institute maybe, which was focusing both on the religious education as well as the normal mainstream education. And so imagine the scenario. Then I usually talk a lot in English and a mix of Urdu and English. And so these young students, average years of age was 10. These 10 years of age children were just 150 children were staring at me, and I was standing in front of them. Now these 150 children saw for the first time in their life what a projector was and how a slide is actually seen. And so that was a really moving experience. And what happened was, I'll get back to the point, that there was a slide about studies. So there were lots of books in that slide. Now there wasn't any change in the body language or behavior of the students, and they were sitting dull basically. And so as soon as I flipped the slide to the next one, that slide had one picture only, big picture, a wallpaper you may call it, of a cricket bat, a pitch, wicket, and a ball. And as soon as the audience, the 150 children saw that slide, all of them started laughing and giggling, and got the whole body language changed. And that's the power of looking at things differently. If we can replicate that positive body language and positive behavior to their studies, their performance will change altogether. And one of the concluding point on this experience was that at the end I asked them what they want to be when they grow up. Now they're all 10 years of age, and in the initial part their responses were different, but at the end of the session, of the 1.5 hour session, children were like, I want to run a toffee factory, I want to do this, I want to do that. And the responses were so amazing. And so that's the power of the strength based thinking.
And I too have had some similar experiences coaching, not necessarily children, but what I found is that, like yourself, I like to vary my audience. And for the longest time, I was doing just strictly business with like you said, the C-level, those in charge of organizations. But then I started to kind of work a lot with college students, and then I most recently had a coaching experience with a family, and it was actually with just the parents of 3 younger children, and that was really rewarding. And I won't lie, I was actually kind of nervous about that because it was something I had never done before. Like you said, I was stretching myself outside of that comfort zone, and I found that it was actually really rewarding and insightful. And we, as myself as a coach, took a lot from that session, as well as did the 2 parents. As you know, it was an amazing experience. But you know, I think you're right. As coaches, or as anybody who's out there trying to get individuals to think in a different way, don't just focus on what you perceive as the big fish. Focus on all aspects of your life, from youth to when you're starting to find yourself right out of college, to those who, like you said, coaching individuals who are in their 70s, because it's never too late to really grasp this concept of positive psychology and strengths-based development. I absolutely love that. So now, Abdullah, looking back, how do you think your life today would be different if you never really became aware of your natural talents? Let's just say if there was never that verbiage to actually apply to it, if you didn't have the futuristic, strategic, individualization, connectedness, focus, how do you think your life would be different?
Well, honestly speaking, I would have taken maybe 10 more years or so to give meaning to those signals that come from my mind, the energy boost and energy drainage system. And so I would have noted those learnings down, and decades down the road, 10 or 15 years, I would have started giving vocabulary or terms to each of those learnings. And then at the end of the day, I would have started again. I would still be coaching, but my coaching would be just run of the mill. It wouldn't be different. My life would be ordinary, or maybe something slightly more than ordinary, or maybe extraordinary if I worked really hard, which I was doing. But I wouldn't have been able to narrate to people my experiences in an effective manner. I wouldn't have been able to actually relate to their strengths or talents in an effective manner. Honestly speaking, if I hadn't broken down personality into the 3 areas which I mentioned, knowledge, skills, and talent, I would have lived a pretty confused life for at least 10 years.
And I like that word, confused. And honestly, this relates back to that quote, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And I think that quote sums up that entire question for everybody that I've interviewed thus far as part of Thematics. So Abdullah, do you have any closing comments, insights, or any kind of additional stories you want to share with us before we close this out?
I think at the end of the day, it's all about how you, as a person, make an impact on the world. And if we open our mind and focus on the big picture, all of us can actually work together in creating impact. And so again, focusing on strengths, developing strengths, and challenging yourself. At the end of the day, it's all about how you utilize time effectively, how you actually take every bit, every minute, every second, and use it to develop yourself, develop your strengths, and then create an impact. When you have that purpose in mind, when you have when you can direct energy in that manner on yourself, if you can invest time on yourself first and foremost, then you can create ripples across the world.
Very, very well said. Now, Abdullah, the Wrangle, is do you have a website, or is there anything? If somebody here in the States hears this broadcast, hears this podcast, and says they want to maybe contact you or they want to find out more about what you're doing in Pakistan, how do they do that?
Well, you can go to facebook.com/wrangle, RANGLE.IT. So wrangle it. So, or just search Wrangle or my name, Abdullah Saqib. My LinkedIn profile would come on top. And so just drop me a message on LinkedIn, or just send anything to on Wrangle's page. So again, facebook.com/RANGLE, wrangle.IT.
Very good. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. I guess it's evening for you to sit back and take part in this conversation with me. I appreciate it. As always, every individual, like I said earlier, always gives me something to take from this. I never leave empty-handed, so this is not the exception. Thank you again, Abdullah. And go ahead and stick with me for a second. We'll play some closeout music here, and then we'll move on, sir. So thank you again.
Thanks a lot, Andy. Thanks a lot, and thank you for making this a memorable evening.
No problem, sir. All right, everybody, this is Andy.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Thematics, presented by UnleashStrengths.com. Remember to embrace your strengths and always stay addicted.